Comments for the week ending November 20th from the Beef Farmers of Ontario. There were 370 head of fed steers and heifers sold through auction markets last week, down 19 head from the previous week. Fed steers averaged 298.80 per hundredweight, down 7.11 per hundred, and fed heifers averaged 297.92 per hundredweight, down 8.17 per hundred from the previous week's trade. Auction markets reported that fed steers and heifers traded easier with a lower demand. In Ontario, one packer was not bidding on cattle last week. Depending on freight and dressing percent, sales to the U.S. were working back on either side of 305 per hundredweight FOB the feedlot. For the week ending November 8th, Eastern fed cattle and cow exports to the U.S. were 4,031 head, 1% above last year and 28% above the 5-year average. Year-to-date, Eastern fed cattle and cow exports were steady with last year. Cull cow receipts sold through auction markets last week were 2,701 head, up 262 head from the previous week. Cows averaged 167.37 per hundredweight, down 6.81 per hundred. Beef cows averaged 172.54 per hundredweight, down 21.63 per hundred from the previous week's trade. Auction markets reported to Tuesday the fed cows sold on an easier trade. By Thursday, fed cows sold at steady prices. Total receipts were 10,075 head last week. Receipts of 5,244 stock and feeder cattle sold through Ontario auction markets, down 1,687 head from the previous week. Auction markets reported on Friday, November 14th, that calves and yearlings sold strong at steady prices. By Thursday, stockers sold selectively on a softer note. The Quebec electronic market last week sold at 5.09 per hundredweight dressed on a picked-up basis. Last week, Alberta fed steers and heifers closed the week averaging $2.96 and $2.94 per hundredweight respectively, down $2 per hundredweight from the previous week. Dress sales were from $4.93 to $4.95 per hundredweight delivered, steady with the previous week. Cattle that traded were scheduled for delivery throughout December. U.S. packer interest was also noted, and light volumes of Western Canadian cattle were marketed south. Sales to the U.S. were at a premium over local deals. With longer lift times, heavier carcass weights may become a concern. Feedlots were negotiating for bids with no heavyweight carcass discounts. By Thursday, November 20th, light trade developed, with dress sales reported from $4.90 to $4.95 per hundredweight, steady to $3 per hundredweight lower than the previous week. For the week ending November 15th, Western Canadian fed processing was 41,490 head, 7.2% lower than last year. The U.S. cash cattle trade last week saw dress sales in Iowa and Nebraska from $3.40 to $3.47 per hundredweight, $10 to $12 per hundredweight lower than the previous week's trade. Live sales on the north were from $2.15 to $2.21 per hundredweight, mostly $2.18 per hundredweight, $4 to $7 per hundredweight lower. Live sales in Texas and Kansas were from $2.22 to $2.24 per hundredweight, $5 per hundredweight weaker. Last Friday, the market digested some negative news. Tyson Foods announced the closure of one of its beef plants in Lexington, Nebraska, while one plant in Amarillo, Texas will be scaled back to one shift per day. Over the past few years, no Canadian cattle were being shipped into Lexington for processing. The plant in Lexington has a daily capacity of 5,000 head. Both live and feeder cattle contracts were locked to limit down today. This is Jamie Kerr with the Beef Farmers of Ontario Market Information Report.